Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now we're taking a look here today at Coin98, C98. It was a huge recommendation from my community here. I was asked to cover it in the past, but I wasn't really sure how it's going to respond being a new ICO. And technically, I typically don't usually like to cover these because the simple fact that it's just kind of well, there's not a lot of trading data, right? So as a trader, you want to go with coins that are a little more established. It's kind of more gambling if you're just jumping into a coin you don't know much about. Obviously, do your own research. I'm not a financial advisor, but I have been trading for years, and I want to make sure to exercise some caution here, show you some best practice, so you understand how to navigate a situation like this, because a lot of folks are not familiar with coins that perform the way that this one has been so far, and how to protect your investment. So we're going to look at that here today. I want to help educate you on best practice, make sure you can trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. Okay, so bear that in mind. That's always my goal. And just bear also in mind that I have a signal group that I share all of my trades with my community members too. So I send out usually 3 to 5 signals per week, swing trades, day trades, and of course hodl trades as well, to ensure that we all stay profitable, and I average about 80% success rate. So check that out in your own time. I also have a Telegram community to reference that as well. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into the charts. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Coin98. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline in the market so we know exactly what's going on. That way we can make an informed decision before we jump in and kind of hopefully understand all the angles. I know there's not a lot of trading data for C98 right now, but we'll hopefully be able to disseminate some type of big picture here, see what's going on, right? So let's take a look here at Bitcoin first. Now, just to preface, clarify, yesterday we did touch, basically past 50,000, but the one-day chart closed below, so therefore we technically didn't pass that resistance level. So 50,000 is still considered a resistance. Now on the 4-hour chart, however, I do like to note here that obviously the price is still above support at about 48,000. It did drop below, tested about 47,800, but we're still above that. So we'll see what happens here soon. All in all, not terrible though. We did reach a state of exhaustion on the 1-hour chart for the TD sequential. So for the most part, I feel like it's going to perhaps level out. Good news is that support level is currently holding, and big picture as well for Bitcoin, we have an ascending pattern here. It's basically a channel that has worked itself into. So there's a strong likelihood that price will continue sideways, and then again eventually come up to test 50,000 again and eventually break, based on the simple fact that we are moving into a pretty consistent upward pattern here, basically in a bullish pattern. So just be prepared for that with Bitcoin here in the near future. All in all, though, other than that, we do have a support level here at about 46,500, secondary support here at about 44. No major resistance or support levels above 50,000, so it's pretty much open game from there for the most part. Obviously, we'll figure it out when we get there, but between here and 50 and 58,000, it's pretty open for the most part again. Okay, so just so you know, that's kind of where we're at. Moving on to Ethereum, similar scenario here as well. I'll go ahead and extend out this support and resistance level. Currently resistance right now at approximately 3250, but it was previously a support. So honestly, it's hard to say. It's kind of jumping up and down below that. But we have a major support here at about 2,900. If for some reason Bitcoin does drop sub 48,000, this will be the next major support level. But looking at the further support here, I forgot to look at this on Bitcoin, but the 50-day simple moving average is working as a support level here for Ethereum, as we can see here. Tested, rejected, 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 and again 3 times in a row. So it's pretty consistent in the sense that the price is going to hover around 3190 or higher moving forward. I would say 3200 is roughly the average that we can see there. And just to take a quick look here at Bitcoin, the 50-day simple moving average hasn't been tested yet, but the good news is the price is, the 50 is moving up slowly to hopefully intersect with this support level here as well. So that could very well work as a support moving forward if the price does drop below. Moving on to C98, which is essentially Coin98. We'll look at the one-day chart first and work our way down. That's the most advantageous thing to consider. But here's what's interesting about C98. Obviously, there's not a ton of data, so we're not going to be able to see any simple moving averages in the one-day chart, which is unfortunate, but also normal. So, again, thank you to my community members for recommending that I cover this. These aren't coins I typically like to trade myself or even analyze, just because there's not enough data here to really get a full understanding, but we can at least kind of get a baseline of what's going on overall to hopefully help mitigate any potential loss or gains. Now, just to clarify, RSI is up over 70. We've got 14 days worth of data and then some. Of course, we've had about, what is this, July 23rd, roughly 1 month of data so far. But as we can tell, RSI is up over 85. Typically when it does that on the 1-day chart, we do see retracement, and commonly retracements are about 50% of the original, starting point. So we start right here at $3.10, and the price reached close to $6. We can expect 450 plus or minus a couple cents to essentially be the middle point for the retracement. It's usually about the average that I've noticed. Now the Fibonacci retracement tool will give us different indications, but it's going to be pretty close. It's usually like a 60-40. So if we look here right in the center, again 445 would probably be the most middle, and then of course we could have 480 or somewhere in the range of about 417. Okay, but I would say 450 is probably a close approximate to roughly where we're going to see a support level if the price ends up retracing back down. It's common for prices to retrace down 50% based on this significant amount of increase in just one trading day. We look at that increase, we're looking at about 91% in just 24 hours or less. Basically, it's about 23 hours because we have about an hour left in this trading cycle. So that's kind of what's going on with the 1-day chart. Let's go ahead and see if we can identify anything on the 4-hour chart. First of all, obviously the 50-day simple moving average is working as a support level. 200 isn't present yet, not enough trading data. A lot of volume, obviously, in the last 24 hours. There's a big spike in volume back here on August 14th, and ever since then, it's just kind of been ramping up. So all in all, looking pretty good here. Definitely a very bullish trend. We got a MACD convergence here that I think that should have been today. Yep, today at about 1 a.m. So when half of us were sleeping, or at least some of us, I know I was at 1 a.m., that essentially happened. So let's go ahead and just mark that really quick here. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, we got a convergence on the MACD. And if you're unfamiliar with the MACD and how beneficial it is, typically when there's a convergence in the MACD, that's essentially when the 12 intersects with the 26 in an upward fashion. That basically gives us a buy signal for a long situation. In other words, if you're considering a swing trade, even day trading, it works still effectively. But more importantly, with swing trading, it's more common than not to buy and hold for longer periods based on that happening, because on the 4-hour chart, it's a slower moving time frame, or a larger time frame, so to speak. So in that sense, getting these specific entry points, buying and selling in a short amount of times isn't really necessary. That's why it's good for a swing trader. So just something to consider. Most people that are investing in crypto are swing traders. They want to buy today and sell for 10x tomorrow, or in a few months, right? It doesn't always work out this way. Obviously, this is kind of an anomaly here. We've got some pretty good price action, but generally speaking, that's kind of the concept. So just bear that in mind. So we mark that. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at the 1-hour chart to kind of see how that correlates with the Ishimoku cloud. And obviously we can see the prices above the cloud. It bounced right here at about 2100 yesterday. So that was 9 p.m. yesterday, Pacific Standard Time rather. And what that basically just means is when the price is above the cloud, it's considered a buy signal. And when it's below, it's considered a sell signal. So hypothetically, in retrospect, we looked at this, right? Again, easier said than done. The best point in time to have invested in C98 would be somewhere right around here when the price broke above the cloud, and or right here, of course. Both would have worked. I mean, you can kind of see a lot of correlation here. When the price goes above, it stays above. When it drops below, it's supposed to stay below. In other words, C98 actually started at a great time, because you think about it, what is it? The 23rd of July. That's 2 days after Bitcoin jumped above 30,000, right? I think it was like the 21st, 22nd. So when you think about, Bitcoin being on a bullish run for the last 4.5 weeks consistently, yes, it has little sell-off patterns here and there, but for the most part, it's increasing day after day. Why is C98 doing so well? Well, it probably had a good, its ICO date was very good, obviously, because we released on the 23rd. The first week, and even in fact, the first few weeks were no good at all. But now, when you get to this point right now where we're at, it's consistently being bullish. Obviously, the price was undervalued when it first opened, and people are realizing there's some value here. It could be the hype train, it could be a lot of things, but there's strong chances that there's a good fundamental catalyst causing the price to increase here. Again, I don't really look at those things here, of course, and yes, you might be questioning, well, why didn't you look at that? Well, it's not something I necessarily do, because first of all, this isn't a coin that I invest in. If you're investing in it, you always look at it. That's the bottom line. I don't look at that here, of course, because my channel is to ensure that we just look at the technical charts only. But obviously, always do your own research when it comes to investing in coins, right? So in that case here, obviously, we want to make sure to look at that. So, if you have a comment, feel free to comment down below. Let us know what essentially caused this to happen. But in most cases, when you see prices increase like we have here so far, there's typically a fundamental catalyst causing the price action to increase this fast. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to the 1 hour chart. Let's quickly identify the TD sequential, see if we're big surprise. Look at this here. We're counted from a 1 to a 9. And instead of retracing significantly, it's been on a bull run ever since. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We are 10 candlesticks, basically 10 hours into overtime with TD sequential. And if you're unfamiliar with TD sequential, basically it just takes the current candlestick. If the current candlestick is higher than the previous fourth candlestick, then it keeps counting up or down on the inverse, right? So simply put, when we see a 9, it's supposed to reverse, and what should have happened here with C98 is the price should have regressed and came back down. There's likely some kind of fundamental catalyst that pushed the price up. It could have been the hype train or fear of missing out. There's a lot of things that factor in, but generally speaking, it's usually a fundamental catalyst. That being said, the price is up where it's at right now because of that. And therefore, we're in significant overtime. So traditionally speaking, the price should have retraced by now, and it hasn't yet. So that basically just means there's a really strong bull run. The one thing I do like that I see here so far is that we got kind of this up over pattern. It's at least taking a moment. If it's not just 1 hour, it could be 3 or 4 hours. There are slight breaks and slight pauses between these consistent increases. So there's some silver lining here in the fact that C98 could very well still have more gas left in the tank, regardless of TD sequential here, because of the simple fact that it is considered to be a healthier bull run. These candlesticks are getting closer and closer together. I think we're going to see somewhat of a retracement. There's a strong chance we're going to see a retracement right here, right at about $4.80. In other words, that's right where the price could come down and bounce. And again, remember we looked at this earlier too with Fibonacci retracement. 450 was the other. So we'll just go ahead and mark 450 as a close approximate. That's likely another support level. Okay, so let's just take a quick look here. We found the lowest point. Pull it on up. Look at that. See how those lines match up? So ideally, the price comes down and passes this point right here. We'll go ahead and mark that too. Then we have a secondary and tertiary support and resistance levels, or more so support levels. Could become resistance if it drops below. So yeah, simply put, the next major catalyst here essentially, or more importantly, the next major support level is 524. We're going to want to pay attention to that level and see how the price responds to it if it comes back down. It's already essentially bounced off of it once, it came close, and there's a good chance it might come and test it again, perhaps reject, and then continue lower to the second support level at about 481. So round numbers, we'll just go ahead and say round numbers: 450, 480, and 525. Those are the three major support levels. Because honestly, when a price goes up like this, you got these new all-time highs. You don't truly know where it's going to come back down, and we don't necessarily know how much higher it's going to go either. Because it's in this place right now where it's like no man's land, or just it's somewhere where it's never been before. It's unexplored territory, and when that happens, predicting how much higher it's going to go is difficult. But what you can predict that's more likely than not going to happen is if there's a retracement, which is very, very certain, or of strong likelihood rather, when it does retrace, it'll probably come down to test one of these three levels. So if you have an investment open right now, I'd recommend considering moving your stop loss up to somewhere in the range of like 518, just below 525, to ensure if it does go below and you get stopped out, and then you're good to go. You've taken your profits. You don't want to get greedy in these situations because there's a strong chance you got in at a pretty good entry point. You've probably at least doubled your profit by now. And just to be safe and to be careful, take your profits when you can. And heaven forbid this price does break below here, and that becomes a new resistance. Then set your targets on 480 and possibly consider buying a dip if it comes back down that low. Because bear in mind again, this 1 day candlestick here, if you kind of cut that in half, I would venture to guess that 450 would be an eventuality here if the price continues to retrace. Right? So just something to pay attention to. Let's take a look at the 15-minute chart here. See where we're at. I'm venturing to guess we got a pretty strong standard deviation between VWAP and EMA. So if you're new to the channel, VWAP is this blue line here. It's basically a day trader's tool. You can only use it on the 15-minute charts or lower, or at least it's recommended to do so. You can technically use it larger time frames, but there's really no point in doing so because it's most effective on shorter periods. In other words, what it is, it takes the volume of the last 24 hours, expresses it as a price. And right now, according to the volume, based on the last 24 hours, the price should be $4.30, whereas it's upwards of $5.50. So that standard deviation is 28% presently. So you have just a 30% difference from where the price should be to where the price is. There's no wonder why the price is starting to come back down, because that deviation became too high. All right, so VWAP is nice because every 24 hours it resets and it kind of gives you a new calibration of support and resistance levels. So right now it's been working as a support level. In here in about just say 30 minutes, the price will reset and this will be back up to zero, and then it'll kind of reestablish itself. It's designed traditionally for regular trading cycles, right? Normally you have, open at 6:30 a.m. and then of course you've got, market close at 1 p.m. and then it closes essentially post-market at 5. That's why 5 p.m. Pacific is essentially the time frame there. So whatever time zone you're in, you'd essentially adjust that. But simply put, it resets every 24 hours to reset that standard deviation, right? Which is what we're seeing here. There's too high of a deviation, therefore the price has to come back down. And that's why that natural law, that natural gravity of cryptocurrency or just trading in general is going to happen soon, where we're going to see the price come down, test the support level of 527. If it loses and the candlestick closes below, then we're going to be looking at the next target at about 480. Okay. So at this case in point right now, with me doing this, I like to kind of exercise caution and just recommend best practice. The best practice in this situation here, as a trader, I've been trading for almost 15 years now. I can tell you that it's not about how much higher this will go, it's about how much lower it could go. And in other words, how much of your profits you're going to put, lose or leave on the table, so to speak. So again, protect your profits. I would recommend even taking profits right now. Yes, it jumps up another couple of dollars. You made some money on this, right? You can't get greedy. Obviously you could, there's no doubt about that. You could hold on and be the luckiest hodler in the world, but we never truly know, okay? So I just like to take profits when I can and then buy the dip when it comes down closer to support and resistance levels that are established. These haven't been established yet, but they will soon, and we'll see here in the near future if $5.25 is essentially a support level, or if it becomes a resistance and it works itself into a channel between 480 and 525. Okay. So that's why I felt inclined to want to cover this here for my community members too, especially because a lot of times, when you're a newer trader, you're like, oh my gosh, fear of missing out, the price is going up, it's going to go to $10, $20, $30. I got to get in this. No, that's not the case. Yes, it can very well happen. Yes, you're going to miss out. Always missing out on opportunities in trading. There's no doubt about it. I miss out on trading opportunities every single day. There's no way to find them all. But the key is, when you are in one, you got to be smart, you got to be wise, you got to protect your investment. And why leave money on the table? There's no reason for it, right? You take your profits when you can. I don't care if it's 0.5% or 20%. It's important to ensure you're always profitable, because that's the key to surviving to trade another day. Right? So hopefully you found this beneficial. I just recommend being very careful. I can't predict and tell you how much higher it's going to go. I feel it's overextended. I think it's going to go sideways for some time, if not retrace down to 480 and or 525 first. But just honor and respect these support and resistance levels. If the 1 hour chart, actually better chart time frame, because we're going to see a new candle here soon. If the 4 hour chart closes above 525, then we're looking good. If it closes below, I'm talking about the next 4 hours after this one closes. If this next candlestick on the 4 hour chart closes above 525, then we're looking to be in pretty good shape for the price to continue sideways and or continue upwards further. But if it breaks below and stays below 525, that's a new resistance, and we're looking at 480 as the next potential support level. So be careful, be safe, and thank you so much for joining me here today. If you did find benefit, of course, feel free to reference my Patreon account. Recommend registering on the 1st. I share all of my trades with my community members, and I use everything we just looked at here today in that. Actually, a lot more. I use a lot more indicators than what we just saw here today, but this is kind of a unique situation. You don't see these ICOs take off so well initially, but ICO date for C98 was perfect. The 2 days literally after Bitcoin went from its lowest point on a bull run, right? So keep that in mind as well. That has a lot to do with this. Bitcoin drops below 44,000 in the near future, you can expect this one to tank. I can almost guarantee it. All right, thanks again, sir, for joining me here today. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.